One of the things I think that with pass-through incomes on S Corps and LLCs, that we've got to have a better understanding up here. I know I happen to be chairman of the Florida Chamber. We represent 137,000 businesses. Most of those businesses, 95%, 50 employees or less. So you have a lot of LLCs, you have a lot of sub-S corporations. But one of the things I try to get people to understand, some do understand, if we raise taxes in general, up from 35%, that a lot of people that are in these small businesses or personal tax rates up to 40 or 45 or 43%, a lot of this money, ends up affecting all the small businesses. In turn, they can't buy the equipment and capital. Most people I know, and I've seen zillions of them as you have, they make 400, let's say, at the bottom line. But when you really look at, by the time they spend some money on capital and some other things, that maybe some debt, the capital they're retiring, debt in their business and other things, they really end up maybe with 100. They've added, a couple other employees, that type of thing. So I'd like to first just have you comment the impact it would have on small business of any kind of a tax increase on personal income. Your thoughts on that. If we went from 35 to 39 or 45 or 44, what does that do to your businesses, your clients, small business in general? And you start off wherever you'd like to start there. Mr. Kerr, why don't you mention?
I was really rather hoping not to go first on this one.
Yeah.
In the main, of course, it's difficult to sit here and ever advocate for higher taxes in any sense. So I don't think that I'm going to start doing so. I certainly see the concerns and the interest in keeping the marginal rates the same, the 35%. It could be an environment to consider. Well, is there a way to broaden the base and lower the rates on both sides? Now, obviously, that's an issue that's decided elsewhere, but I just wanted to throw that out for consideration. Otherwise, I really don't have anything to add to that. Okay.
Anybody else want to add a comment on that?
Mr. Kerr referred to the broadening of the base and potentially lowering the rates. I think we need to be careful of the end result of that, and I believe that's perhaps where you were going, Mr. Buchanan, is there's a great appeal to the sound of reducing a tax rate from 35 to 30%. But if the result of that is that a great number of things are taken out of the tax code in terms of deductions or potential benefits, and ultimately the tax burden increases, that's the burden that the small business owners feel. They don't attach so much to what's the rate, what am I paying?
Well, it's a real, not effective issue.
Yeah, I guess what I was trying to get at, I've just seen over the years someone makes 500 and they always say, where's my liquidity, where's my cash? Well, they paid out a third in taxes. They've made some additional investments in equipment that they write off over 5 years. That's gone. They've added some additional inventory. Before you know it, they've made 500 in a sense in their tax return, but they've got $50,000 in the bank. That's what happens. I've seen over the years. Mr. Shin, do you want to comment any more on that?
Yes, I think where you're headed with the bonus depreciation and the increase in the 179 deduction is a great start, but some of the opportunities for more installment sales on the sale of inventory, things like that, would allow them that opportunity where the cash flow and the payment of the taxes are more in sync.
Yeah. I want to shift over the other thing on the S Corp and the LLC. It just seems like there's I know there's benefits on both sides, and I haven't paid as much attention, in the S Corp because it seems like everything I've done the last 8-10 years, we've been pushed. Everything's an LLC because of I think the flexibility. But what is the biggest difference? I mean, is the S Corp? Is there any sense that could be obsoleted, or is it because of the shareholders' ability to raise capital? It just seems like the LLC. Everybody I'm talking to, now maybe it's because there's only 2-3 owners, everybody's moving to LLC. Is that that's just what my tax attorneys and tax people have been pushing me to, and I hear a lot of my friends are moving to that, their own businesses. I'd be interested to see what the S Corp was 10 years ago, the numbers, and then what it is today. And maybe it's because of business in general, it's up. But Byron, or what's your feeling? What is the big difference? What do you find with small business? from the S Corp to the LLC.
They like
Everybody used to do the S Corp. Now everybody's look like
Yes.
the LLC.
Once the states have had some litigation and people see how the safety of that corporate insulation, they've gotten comfortable with it, and you see more and more people going with their operating companies that way. If they're in LLLPs or LPs, they still might do an LLC that's going to be the general partner, and they'll elect S as the general partner. So there's still opportunities for S as a managing partner of a large limited liability partnership or an LLC that's, for tax purposes, being treated as a partnership, so the managing member might end up being an S Corp. The other thing that really stands out with debt, small businesses usually lose money when they first start out. And losing money cash flow-wise, that's the investment you talk about of the assets and the loans and the inability to deduct those losses. And the IRS has time and again held true to S Corps. They don't want to allow guaranteed debt as basis. They don't want to have co-maker. So if Byron signs a loan, Byron Shin and Shin and Company, it's not allowed. They want me to borrow the money individually and then put it into the business. It has to be that refined. And there's been so much case law on this. It's abusive from a standpoint of really hamstringing those S corporate owners. So why do they go to the LLCs? Just because of that.
Mr. Anderson, any comment in terms of your thought on S Corps and LLC? I'm sure they have a different role, but is the shift in general for small businesses and entities with 3, 4, 5, 10 shareholders, are they doing more of an LLC, or is it just depend?
Well, I think the advice that we give to our clients really depends upon whether we're talking about an existing entity or a newly formed entity. From my perspective, although I love S corporations, I'm the first to acknowledge that an LLC taxed as a partnership is probably the most flexible vehicle for a newly formed entity. But when you're converting an existing C corporation, I think the S corporation is the only game in town, quite frankly, for the reasons that I mentioned in my testimony, and that is that when you convert a C corporation to an S corporation, there are no immediate, and I emphasize immediate, tax consequences. But if you were to convert an existing C corporation to an LLC taxed as a partnership, the consequences could be disastrous. And so we preserve the C corporation attributes by converting to S corporation status.
Is that something that should be looked at? I mean, should a C corp have the same opportunity as an S corp? LLC. I mean, in terms of that conversion, I mean, you can move to an S corp, but you can't move to an LLC. Is that something that makes any sense?
Well, I think that there have been proposals floated over the past several years that would go either way. For example, some proposals would say if you're going to make an S corporation conversion, a C to S conversion, and you are of a particular size, we will tax that as a fully taxable liquidation. Great for simplicity, but terrible for the business itself if you happen to be the one converting. On the other hand, there have been proposals that would cause a C to S conversion to be treated as a non-recognition event. There are partnership provisions that would be built into those provisions that would preserve the gains at the entity level so that they're ultimately taxed somewhere. But I have to submit that those are very, very complex. There's nothing really more complex than the partnership gain and loss allocation provisions. And again, do we want complexity? Do we want it to be simple? We're really caught here because we've got lots of history and just, quite frankly, no way to go. It would be tremendously complex, I think, to allow conversions from C to S status and give them the equivalent of partnership status.